Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. At their meeting on August 14th, the Monroe County Commissioners updated the community on projects that they've been working on. First, Commissioner Julie Thomas spoke on the environmental report on the North Park project, where the commissioners are looking into putting the new jail facility.
Just a note that we are anticipating the Phase 2 environmental report on the North Park project to be arriving soon. And when that does, if there are no issues, we will continue to look at that property. And we have not made a decision yet, but we've clearly put a lot of effort into that study.
Commissioner Penny Githens continued the update and shared information on the cost of living increase that they've proposed to the County Council.
Last evening, we went before the Monroe County Council to present our recommendations for COLA increase for this year. We recommended a 5.2% based upon historical data and current CPI information, so that we looked back since 2021, and in order to keep county employees sort of even, we feel that that's the appropriate amount. When I also supplied information indicating that over the past year, median housing prices in Bloomington rose 10%. And of course, we know that what makes things affordable is not only the cost of housing, but also what wages are. And so that tends to make a big difference. And then I also attached for their reading an article on the fact that more teens are out in the workforce to help contribute to their family income. So it makes it even more important that we support our employees with this kind of a raise.
During public comment, Bloomington Chamber of Commerce President Eric Spoonmore shared information about a potential new location for the new jail.
We sincerely hope you can take our request into consideration and add this fourth site to the list of potential locations for the new jail. We do believe there's a great number of benefits to the community that this new location could provide, especially the cost savings to taxpayers in Monroe County. I don't have specific land costs here to present to you today, but I'm sure that information could be made available to county leaders if you requested it from the property owners. It's just my opinion, but I do think we can safely say that these 100 or so available acres would come at a fraction of the cost of any of the other 3 site options that are currently under consideration. Those significant savings of taxpayer dollars could then be used for enhancing the much needed additional services and programs that would aid those being housed in the new jail. And so on behalf of the residents and the businesses that are funding this project through their tax dollars, we're here today because we understand the door is still open on any of the sites, and we hope you can add this newest option to your cost benefit list and explore the possibility of putting the new jail in a more central location, closer to services at a significant savings to the community.
A local Ellettsville resident, Craig Cowden, also spoke on the jail location, saying that he did not like the current proposed location and is interested in selling his property for the new jail site.
I'm Craig Cowden, president of the Don Cowden Foundation, which controls Cowden Enterprises, and we own the land on Vernal. The reason I'm here is I'm an Ellettsville resident and I love Ellettsville. And when I saw the jail was going to go on 46, I thought, I don't want the jail there. It's going right into our community, and it's going to sit there. And you have all the medical facilities around there. The VA is going to go there. And I thought, so we own the land on Vernal Pike, and it's probably closer to the courthouse than the Kreider land. And so I reached out, and so we have 53 acres, and I'm very willing to sell for appraised value. I don't want to make any money on it. And what even better, last night I found out the land that is contiguous to our land is also available. And it's 54 acres, so you're going to have 100 acres, and it's probably going to be, 2/3 of the cost of buying the 40 acres off of Kreider. We are on a sewer line, so we don't have a sewer plant there. So I hope you would consider that. And I know you said you're still open to it. And I'm here if you have any questions about the property.
Another Ellettsville resident, Dee Burress, also gave public comment saying that they are Cowden's neighbor and are interested in selling their property adjacent to Cowden's for the new jail facility as well.
I am the owner of the property adjacent to Mr. Cowden. I became aware of this yesterday, and we are also very willing to sell at appraised value, and I agree that those two parcels are parcels about 59 acres, and the two of those parcels together, I believe, can be purchased for substantially less than the North Park property. It also concerns me that anybody coming from Indianapolis, the first thing they're going to see as they enter to either go to football game, wherever they're going, is going to be the jail. And I'm just not sure that that is what we want our community to be the first thing people see.
Next, the commissioners heard from Highway Department Director Lisa Ridge about a contract for the design of a bridge called Business 37 North Bridge number 913. Ridge explained that they received a grant from INDOT for the reconstruction of a bridge. She asked the commissioners to approve the contract for the design of the bridge and said that the construction won't take place until the fiscal year of 2029.
So Monroe County was awarded this bridge replacement project in the spring of 2024. We went through the RFP process for the consultant selection. NDOT has approved that. The contract with the consultant has been assigned and approved now through the NDOT process also. The contract is for an 80% reimbursement for the design of the bridge project, and the construction of the project is in fiscal year 2029.
The commissioners approved the design agreement unanimously. The Bloomington City Council met on August 14th to tackle the question, quote, what actions should the council take to address street homelessness and support the work of others addressing street homelessness, unquote. The special session was labeled as a common consensus building activity. It consisted of an overview on the issue of street homelessness and two breakout groups where members of the public engaged with the city council. Councilmember Isak Asari began the session with an overview of the issue.
This is a conversation that's happening within a larger ecosystem of conversations. Very usefully, just yesterday, heading home, I don't see where Mary is, or Tatiana, or any of the other folks, and the mayor and Amazing Mayor's team led incredible conversations around this space. So we just wanted to anchor this conversation within that larger ecosystem of things that are happening in the space. Again, our focus, though, today is specifically on what we as a city council can and should be doing. And so just the fact that this is not happening in an island, it's happening amongst all of those other conversations, but specifically focused on what this body can do.
Then Council at Large member Matt Flaherty outlined what policies the city council could enact to address street homelessness in the city.
The council could, for instance, allow and incentivize or restrict various types of housing, for example, co-housing models or single-room occupancy buildings, other types of more affordable housing units. We could legalize or restrict sleeping in public spaces, either public space writ large or specific public spaces by city code. We could require or direct parks to have public restrooms that are available 24/7, 365, or some other version of that. We could have trash pickup, for instance, at encampments where unsheltered, unhoused folks may be staying. We could dedicate some of the Jack Hopkins social service funding that the council helps allocate specifically for agencies to hire trained street outreach workers, is another example. Some of those would, of course, have fiscal impacts and budgetary implications, but I'll share a few additional examples around the budget. So the council could request from the mayor to include funding in an annual budget, for instance, for a non-shelter option for those experiencing homelessness, such as a designated parking area or staffed single-room occupancy building. The council could also engage with our colleagues from other units of government about dedicated revenue sources. The city council is part of the local income tax council, along with the elected officials from the towns of Ellettsville, Steinsville, and our colleagues on the Monroe County Council. And we collectively are responsible for setting local income tax rates, for instance. Finally, I'll note community building and convening capacities that the council, as representatives of the community, could also work to bring folks together. An example would be working to bring unhoused and housed folks in a given area or neighborhood together to meet, enjoy food over a pizza party, and maybe try to disrupt some of our tendencies to other one another. So those are some examples of things that the council could engage in. Again, not meant to be limiting, but just help get the creative juices flowing for the conversation to come.
Members of the public then went into breakout groups with council members for facilitated discussion on the issue. After the breakout session, Flaherty touched on some of the common themes that he heard in the discussion group.
Folks acknowledge that compared to others, we have a lot of resources in this community, which is both a good thing and sometimes maybe a challenge. Concerns about folks from other counties coming here because of the lack of services there. Wide acknowledgement that this is a very complex and difficult problem, generally speaking. Concerns about safety and security for individuals, for people experiencing homelessness, for businesses. Definitely concerns about the lack of basic needs and services available, in particular trash, bathrooms, and how that can be dehumanizing for folks experiencing homelessness. We dug a little bit into the concept of what does it mean to be from here? If you are residing here, are you from here? How long do you need to be here? We talked about challenges of misalignment between the services that are available and what people's needs might be. In particular, the rules that folks might have a hard time following, not the right gender for the resource, having pets, et cetera, as well as concerns about policies of clearing or sweeping camps when no alternatives exist for folks, and potential spillovers related to displacing people into areas where it may be more difficult to continue case management, or in other more visible areas, downtown or elsewhere. Those were the main things from the personal perspective experience, part one. Part two, I think widespread agreement that we need to be working together, ideally working in the same direction. That's true across units of government, city, county, state, as well as some discussion of public-private and philanthropic entities aligning, including potentially with respect to funding, matching, and all contributing. I think there was a recognition that we need more resources, but an aversion to making new resources. And so it's about reallocating existing money was one consideration, or making better use of funds we have. Again, major theme that emerged was the basic needs, trash and bathrooms, priority number one. Several folks nodded in agreement to that. Also storage for belongings. Safe sleeping came up as an item of conversation. Having designated land or a designated space where folks who are unwilling or unable to go to shelter could spend the night and camp. Probably some level of rules and even provision of tents or sleeping bags. But really back to the basic needs: bathroom, trash, storage, safe sleeping spaces.
Asari outlined what he heard in his breakout group, saying that local residents focused on the humanity of those experiencing homelessness.
3 key points. The first one, everybody acknowledged the significant pressures on all of our resources, on our community just generally, and this is a concern that we all had. We talked, though, most importantly about the humanity of those experiencing homelessness, and most importantly about our responsibility as a city. Someone said, I think the clearest way of sort of summarizing our sentiments around point 1 was that in Bloomington we should not accept having this happen. Like, this is a problem that we should solve, and that we actually believe that it is solvable. In terms of what priorities for action we'd recommend for council, this is just in the order roughly that they came up. We said that we need to be focusing on workforce and skill development, so thinking about ways to help people who are experiencing homelessness find and jobs and skills and upskilling, et cetera. Organizing the city government to deal specifically with homelessness. So we spoke about the need to centralize our resources, everything from the way that we budget to the way that we're staffed, et cetera, to not just spread what we talked about, the sort of resources very thin across multiple departments, but thinking about perhaps having a centralized approach to how we deal with this. We talked a lot about data, thinking specifically about funding for capacity for, and then the city's help in sharing data amongst the broader ecosystem. And in the city broadly, we talked about public facilities, the needs for things like bathrooms, showers, lockers. We talked about, I cannot read my own handwriting. I am sorry. We talked about the need for ecosystem support. So what the city can be doing as a convener to make sure that we're sort of making all of the different parts work well together.
The council will hold another meeting to continue the consensus building process on September 11th. The Monroe County Council met on August 13th. During public comment, local resident Craig Cowden answered questions from council members about a property that he owns on Vernal Pike. Cowden said that he's looking to sell the property to the county as a potential site for the new jail. Cowden was joined by real estate agent Tom Orman. District 3 Representative Marty Hawk questioned Cowden and Orman on the property, starting with the number of acres that would be for sale.
You have how many total acres available?
Yeah, 53 acres total available.
53 acres. And do you have ground that you're aware of that might be possible to purchase that adjoins your property?
I'm told there is land that is surrounding this property that is available for sale.
Right. But we actually don't need 40 acres right now. It seems to me if what we're talking about for the project is the jail and the courts, and we're told that for that project, 25 acres is the amount that's needed. And then have you arrived at a price? Do you have a price that you want to share with us that says an amount not to exceed or something of the sort that would, because it's hard for us to say we're going to save millions of dollars if we really don't have your price.
Right. That's a great question, and we're in the real estate business, and I'll say it's significantly cheaper by probably a third of the property that you're looking at would be my educated guess.
Cowden continued to explain why he would be willing to sell the land to the county for the purpose of constructing a new jail.
It's actually really good access, and I thought, well, I'd rather have the jail there, even though I'd benefit if you did buy it. But being an Ellisville resident, I don't really want it to be, you're driving into Ellisville and that's what you see. So that's why I reached out to this other person.
And I understand from a comment of a fellow council member that it's within walking distance to a bus stop. Is that correct?
The bus stop, I think, is a mile away.
Is that?
But I think maybe you could get them to extend the bus stop out to the property if you build a jail there.
Councilmember Cheryl Munson said that she wants to hear more about the adjacent property that may also be for sale and emphasized that the council needs to carefully consider the proposal.
I want to hear from people who have information about whether adjacent properties are available for sale and what they offer to the total package. 25 buildable acres may be needed immediately, but you don't make long-range plans and just limit yourself to the exact corners that right. you're going to build on. Right. I think this needs to be a plan carefully considered for the future. So that's one point. And the second is that I appreciate you coming forward to talk with the commissioners and then bring this to us as well. And discussions will continue.
The Monroe County Council will meet again on August 27th. At the Ellettsville Town Council meeting on August 12th, the council discussed Resolution 28-2024 for the annexation of 5517 North Union Valley Road. Town Attorney Darla Brown gave some background information on the resolution and said that the Ellettsville Plan Commission recommended the approval of the annexation.
At the Plan Commission's last meeting, they voted to send the proposed annexation of 5517 North Union Valley Road to the Town Council with a positive recommendation for annexation. And as you can see from your materials, it is a petition that was filed by Value Built Incorporated. It is a parcel of land that is approximately 6.23 acres of land into the town of Ellettsville, and you have been provided as part of your packets for this evening the resolution, the fiscal plan, and the ordinance adopting the or approving the voluntary annexation of that property into the town.
The council approved the resolution unanimously. Next, the council discussed Ordinance 2024-17 to repeal the current zoning ordinance, subdivision control ordinance, and maps, and instead adopt the new Unified Development Ordinance and maps. The design consultant the town contracted with to create the new UDO was Taylor Siefker Williams Design Group. Their senior planner, Sean Dade, presented the UDO draft.
So there are two items to consider tonight. The first is the Unified Development Ordinance. The second is the Ellettsville zoning map. Both received unanimous favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission on July 12th. First of all, we'll talk about the UDO. So what exactly is a UDO? It is simply a zoning ordinance and subdivision control ordinance in one document, which is the Unified Development Ordinance. How is this different from your current ordinances? Each district will kind of have an at-a-glance summary. The land uses will be updated and revised to be more contemporary. We've also made sure that state law and case law has been updated, and as well as and very importantly, objectives from the comprehensive plan have been incorporated as well. We also have made it to where information is easier to find. I always like to say if my mom can understand what we're trying to do, we've done a good job. References are hyperlinked and throughout the document, so if you see a reference, you can click on the document, on the reference, and it'll take you to the document place where that reference is.
Dade walked through the different chapters of the UDO and changes to the proposed zoning map. Councilmember Pamela Samples expressed concern over changing the rules, saying it might be confusing for residents.
If we go by, everybody's already went then by the new ordinance that we made, and then we change it, and then these people are by the other ordinance, then what are you going to do, knock on their door and say, whoops, no, we changed it, you're going to cut down however many chickens? I mean, it could run into some problems for people.
I understand.
Because not everybody that's really not involved in politics or anything like that knows about all this. So like they see, oh, my neighbor's got chickens, so I can get chickens, that they don't realize maybe there's rules to it, you know what I mean?
So,
like me, when I first moved to my house and I was younger, I didn't care about politics, didn't care about anything like that. So I figured I'd do what I want on my property. If I wanted to build a deck or if I wanted to do this or that, I wasn't worried about getting a permit because I didn't know anything about it. That was my property. Now I find out later that, oh no, if you want to do this or that or that. It's just confusing for people.
Councilmember Dan Swafford is a member of the Plan Commission as well and suggested that the council should send the UDO back to the Plan Commission with any proposed changes and wait 5 weeks until they vote on it again.
It's the first time you guys have seen this. I think this is part of the step, you know. We send it back to the Planning Commission with your suggestions, and it goes to them, and then it'll come back to us for a final vote. I think we put a lot of time and energy in this to just hurry up and pass it along. I think we just need to take the time and do it right, do it once, and go from there. Yes, it's going to change over time. Things will always change, but this is just another step in the process.
Councilmember Scott Oldham said that he would like a way to approve the 90% of the UDO that is ready to go into effect while still working on the remaining 10% to fine-tune any issues.
I guess how I was looking at it is, I think there's probably 3 or 4 sections, not truly whole sections, but parts of sections that some of us or all of us find objectionable and or in need of some repair. But that said, probably 80 to 90% of this should be in effect. And I'm just struggling to find a way to put the things that need to be in effect and give us time to work with Plan Commission to get the proper language and dial in those problematic things versus having to send the entire thing back to Plan Commission for rework and delaying this even further. Because I think the 3 or 4 things that are, in some of our eyes, problematic can be worked out in fairly short order. So if we stayed enforcement of them for a period of time, that lets the rest of the UDO flow forward, the zoning maps flow forward, and gives us time to fix what we see as issues.
The council then heard approximately 2 hours of public comment on the issue. Ellettsville resident Cameron Gentry said that they were in support of having a new ordinance. However, there were portions he found to be poorly written and vague.
While I appreciate that the need for UDO for Ellettsville as it expands to have a cohesive structure as more buildings begin to grow, I believe that the ordinance has several issues, specifically Chapter 4, Section 9 sign standards. I believe it has 3 key areas where it's wrong. It's poorly written. I believe it violates several portions of the First Amendment. And I believe that it doesn't promote the well-being of the community. To start off, I believe it's poorly written. And the prime example of this is if you look at page 98, where underneath sign inspection, maintenance, and removal, Part B, it says, if illegal signs are not be retrieved from the administrator within 15 days. Immediate typo right there. Further, I believe it has vague language. As an example, if you look at the definition of human signs, signs worn or held by a person unless located outside of the right-of-way and during business hours. This applies that this portion is underneath the prohibited sign types. Again, worn or held by a person unless located outside during the right-of-way and during business hours. Business hours is, to my knowledge, not defined within this document, and it implies that you wouldn't be allowed to hold a sign held by a person outside business hours, which I believe is far too restrictive. The definition of sign. I believe that the way that this ordinance defines sign is way too verbose and just not natural.
Ellettsville resident Dan Rary was in support of the UDO and warned that if they wait until the UDO is perfect, it might never pass.
There's a saying, an old saying that says, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. And I'm guilty of violating that time after time. And what it does is it bogs you down and costs you extra time. I'm afraid if we start bouncing this back and forth between the Plan Commission and the Town Council, trying to get it perfect, it'll never be perfect. It isn't perfect now. It's not going to be perfect. But from what I'm hearing, these small, and it's a small item to everybody except the person that it affects. And if it affects me, it's a big item. If it affects you, it's a small item. But I think that most of these things can be worked out. Probably all of them can be worked out, but it's going to be a lot easier to get the thing in motion and then start working it out. There are some really big projects right now that are kind of dependent upon this. They need to know what's going on. They need to know exactly how they can proceed. So I would urge you to pass this and then very diligently work to get these small items, and I say it's small items, I'm not diminishing anything. These items, whether they're big or small, worked out as soon as we can.
The council voted 3-2 to send the UDO back to the Plan Commission with proposed changes. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.